everyone, Floppy Waffle 69 here. In today's video, we are looking at the next ship in our Down the Line series to the Delny, which is the Soviet main tech line DD line, I believe. This is going to be the Tier 6 Gnevny. Now, the Gnevny and I always have had a great relationship. Even before, like prior to these latest changes in Update 14.3, I actually played the Gnevny a lot and loved her. Even with her abysmal 4-kilometer torpedoes and her abysmal turret traverse, something just shy of like 25 seconds, something ridiculous, right? I loved her. I think she was great. She's an aesthetically pleasing looking destroyer, and she's a lot of fun, especially when you're top tier. And it caught a lot of DDs off guard still, even when I was up here to tier 7. Tier 8, well, being +2, -2 matchmaker is always a for me, so I really don't want to get too much into that. You know where I stand with that. So, but that being said, I just want to get that out of the way first and say that I really had a fun time playing the ship pre and post buffs from update 14.3. So like we always do, we're going to dig around the hood, talk a little bit about the stats, go over the armor scheme, tips and tricks on her, and then I'm going to show you some gameplay on her. So without further ado, let's get into it. First things first is the armor layout. Again, 16mm nose, 16mm ass, 16mm nose midsection with a superstructure of 10mm. There is nothing like any notable thresholds here that it's going to be covered. DDs are going to be able to pen you, cruisers are going to be able to pen you, battleships are going to be a pen you, that sort of thing. As we all know, that the I believe you don't take like full penetrations or something like that from battleships now in regards to like their shell damage performance. Back in the day when I was playing this thing, you still got hammered by BBs, and it wouldn't be out of the ordinary to take almost 3/4 of your HP off in one AP salvo. So thank God those days are done. But instead, now we have mainly have to deal with cruisers and destroyers, and of course, submarines and aircraft carriers are thrown in the mix. And occasionally, when the battleships decide to load HE, we have to worry about that as well. So again, nothing notable to cross or any threshold being crossed with the armor layout. Survivability, you are clocking in at 14,100. That is not bad given for the other ships at this tier. I believe the lowest is the Farragut with 11,500 and the highest being the Kipyard at 17,200. So again, nothing too bad right there in the mix with her, which is again what you're going to need. We're going to look at that artillery. Go ahead and show the fire angles up there for you guys, which again are not very good, especially for that 4th turret. You're going to see you're going to have to show a lot of broadside to do so. Again, we're not really worrying about citadels, as DDs can't take citadels, but we are worrying about showing the biggest frame possible in order for other ships to shoot at and hit you. So you're going to have to be careful of that 4th turret. And even the 3rd turret's not too good either. So again, the turret firing angles on this ship are very, very poor, at least in my opinion. But you do have the 4x1, 130 schmills. You're going to get a 5-second reload time, and 180-degree turn time is 10.4, but that is not base. That is because I am taking the main battery mod, 1 or 2 in that 3rd slot. Your 180-degree turn time is actually 12 seconds without taking that. Now, let me explain a couple things here to you guys. I think this ship does need the turret. That's why I recommend it, right? The turret traverse time there in the 3rd slot. There are a lot of people that are asking me, hey, is it required? Is it necessary? Now, with the Plavorsky, yes, the turret turn time is kind of meh, but you do have kind of the 360-degree turret, turrets turning as they can turn, or they could turn forward, I believe is what it is, right? So they can turn 360. This ship doesn't have that. These ships do turn 180 degrees. They cannot turn 360, so it's going to be harder to keep your guns on target. As it was like for the Pavorsky, for example. So I do recommend taking that, even though it is shaving off just a couple seconds, it does make or break it for me, at least. Now, can you, and this is a question, can you get away with not taking that? Absolutely, guys. It just comes down to you as a captain and what you feel more comfortable. As someone recommending this line for, kind of novice players, I would say go ahead and get that. If you're more experienced, absolutely, you can go ahead and take the aiming systems mod, as you only have 4 guns or 4 shells going down range, so I can kind of understand why you'd want to take that, because you want to lower your dispersion by 7%. But yeah, for me, I'm going to go ahead and take that turret traverse just to be a little bit more comfortable when you get into knife fighting and whatnot. But again, these ships do excel kind of that medium range. You don't want to be right there and in close knife fighting with other DDs. I do think you're going to lose, especially in the DPM department. And you want to use your shell traverse, your shell velocity to your, and shell flight time to your advantage. And that's why I recommend playing these just kind of that second layer support DD. Um, so continuing on, standard DDE dispersion. Your maximum range is clocking in at 11.9 kilometers. Your HE shell is 1900 with an 8% fire chance. And they do go ahead and pen 22 millimeters of effective armor with that armor piercing clocking in at 2500 damage. Again, these are the same 130s you get on the Pavorsky. The AP can schwack light cruisers, so you're definitely going to want to be using that to your advantage. I believe I do showcase that in the replay with some AP, especially on like battleships, broadsides, and cruisers or whatnot. So definitely go ahead and switch with that from time to time. Torpedoes, thank God we have usable torpedoes. We are no longer stuck and hindered by the 4-kilometer torpedoes that this line had previously. We now have a buffed 2x3 533 millimeter torpedoes that go 7 kilometers, which are super, super nice. They do reload in 76 seconds and have a 180-degree turn time of about 7.2 seconds. Maximum damage is clocking in around 14,400 with about a 60 knot speed. And the detectability range of these torps is 1.2 kilometers. So if we do, again, looking at the ships looking at these torpedoes coming to hit them, they have a reaction time about 7.4 seconds, give or take. So again, not bad torpedoes. Again, hydroacoustic search and DDs and or submarines that are spotting for their team effectively are going to allow their larger surface ships to go ahead and dodge more effectively. Again, these aren't torpedo-focused destroyers at all. These are definitely more gun-focused DDs, and that's why I'm building it the way I do. So you do have usable torpedoes finally. A defense, again, not really worth talking about, but the maneuverability is on this ship. The maneuverability of the ship, your maximum speed is clocking in at 38 knots with a rudder shift time of 4.4 seconds base with a turning circle radius of 610 meters. Again, the rudder shift mod I believe, I don't recommend taking the rudder shift mod in the 4th slot. Again, I was just playing around with it to see what I would recommend and what I wouldn't recommend. I do 100% believe the propulsion mod is the way to go. So definitely go ahead and slot your propulsion mod. I'll go ahead and do it right now, just so you guys believe me on it. In that 4th slot, it's going to allow you to play in your smoke screen a little bit better and juke a little bit better and more effectively as well than the turning, the rudder shift mod is going to, at least. So that is definitely what I would recommend. Clocking in on the concealment is 6.8 kilometers base. Again, when we slot our commander on that, it does get down to 6.1, which is very respectable and super nice. I believe that is tying the T61, which again is a very, very powerful tier 6 DD with 6.1 kilometer detection. The Gnevny is a strong and capable destroyer. And as you see, she has much better stats now than she once previously had. The one thing that I talked about in my last video with the Podvorsky, and I also want to mention it again, I do recommend playing the Gnevny as a more experienced DD player, someone who loves the Khabarovsk, it is their favorite destroyer. I do go with the heal. The heal is awesome. The heal is going to heal back 14% repair, and it's going to have a 28-second runtime, and you only have 2 base. I definitely recommend getting Superintendent. I certainly don't have him right now on my commander, but Superintendent's going to allow you to get not only an extra speed boost, but an extra heal, which is going to allow your ability to be higher than mine is currently right now with the heal. So, or with the 2 heals at least. But then for novice players or for players that are maybe new to the line, Smokescreen is, again, a very viable option. You do get 3 base. Again, Superintendent's going to give you light to get 4. The runtime on that is about 20 seconds, and Dispersion is going to last about 85 seconds with a radius of about 450 meters. The smoke is definitely capable. Again, like I mentioned before in my previous video, there is one DD in the line that I would recommend running smoke more so than a heal. That's just for me, and I'll tell you, make sure to point that out when it is. But the Gnevny, no, I do run a heal because I believe even at tier 6, it's an incredibly strong tool you could utilize at this tier. Not only could catch a lot of cruisers off guard, but a lot of enemy destroyers as well, because a lot of people it's kind of went under their radar that these ships can now slot heals. And I've been having a blast with the healing at low tiers because, again, I'm used to it with the Khabarovsk at higher tiers. So definitely worth it in my opinion. So to sum it up here, the Gnevny, again, it's a DD, so there's not really too much to talk about in regards to like the port screen with the armor layout and all that kind of stuff. But I do want to mention this about the Gnevny. The Gnevny, you have 1 less turret than the Pavorsky. I believe the Pavorsky had 5. You do have 4, but you do have a faster reload. The Pavorsky had 7.5 second long reload time. This you have 5 seconds. So you're going to have a little bit more DACA going down range, but you're going to have 1 less shell. So it is a little bit of a trade-off in that regard. But this ship is very comfortable to play now at this tier, and I find her very, very fun to play as well. So anyways, let's enough of me blabbering on here in port. Let's go ahead and get into the battle, shall we, guys? Alrighty, guys, and here we are in battle here for you today in the Gnevny. Pretty fun, pretty entertaining battle. I believe this is the game that got me like the E rank or whatever, the expert badge in the Gnevny. Again, not to toot my own horn or anything like that. It's solely just saying it as I kind of know what I'm doing in this thing. And whatever I'm doing does work for me. So that's why I'm making this video, because hopefully if any of those that are struggling with the Gnevny, or anyone is out there thinking, hey, I'm going to go back and play her, give her another look, or going down for the first time, hey, this is kind of how I would recommend doing it. So anyways, as you can see my loadout, I am not taking the smoke screen. I am taking the healing or the repair party like I told you previously in the video and with the Podvolsky video. To me, it just feels a little bit more comfortable, especially when I find myself in top tier matchups. The heal is very super nice, as I can be more aggressive and I can really bully enemy destroyers. It also allows me the flexibility that when I'm open water gunboating, it allows me that kind of like safety net, knowing that if I take some minuscule damage here and there, like really small damage, I know I have like safety net that I can heal back every now and then. It allows me to kind of out trade cruisers and battleships a little bit in that regard. Now, I'm not saying because I see a cruiser here, let me just open up my guns and start firing at the guy. Again, I have to pick my spots and all that, but yeah, at the end of the day, I would say you still have to use caution and use a brain. I'm not just gonna like at this for attack. I'm not just gonna openly start shooting at the guy. You know what I mean? I have to obviously think it through a little bit. So also, as you guys know, like you probably can't really hear the audio too well in the background, the game audio. That is on purpose. I felt that with this one in particular, when I recorded this, it just kind of got a little corrupted a little bit. And there might be some like overlapping Discord audio that I really wasn't a fan of. And this was a really good game. I didn't want to put this game to waste. So if you guys don't mind, I did this on purpose. So don't rip me in the comments. It was a really good game and really highlights what this ship is effective at. So also, I want to tip my hat to the enemy Gnevny player here. He is a very good player too, at least in the ship. He knows what he's doing. Must have watched the review. No, I'm kidding. But he knows what he's doing. You're going to see in this game, he had one hell of a game as well. I'm sure that he probably, if his team would have won, would have got the expert badge as well, if he already hasn't earned it already. So, but very respectable player. Definitely, he's playing his ship to his strengths. I'm playing the ship to my strengths. As you can see, the shell velocity and the shell flight time on this ship, just like the Podvolsky, like I was talking about in that game, really, really good shell flight time. Utilize this to your advantage. That's why I don't want to go in there. I don't want to get within the detection range of like a Farragut and try to trade him 1-for-1, because I'm telling you right now, you're not going to trade him 1-for-1. Yes, you may have the heal, and yes, I have that safety net to go and pick my engagements, but I don't want to just continuously sail in a straight line, broadside to broadside, and just go at it, because you're not going to win those fights. If you do find yourself in a situation with another destroyer like that, again, start turning out 45 degrees and swivel, swivel, swivel. You always want to be constantly moving with these ships. I find that when I'm looking down my sights and I'm shooting at enemy destroyers, battleships, cruisers, whatever it may be, I'm always holding my A key for a little bit, then going to my D key, coming in, coming out, turning in, turning out. It is a big tactic that you would want to use, not only just for this line in particular, but a lot of gunboat DDs as well. You know, a lot of gunboat DDs nowadays, especially you see this at the higher tier, like the Ragnar being an example, or the Smollin, a lot of these ships, you know, they like doing the going forward, then hitting the brakes and going in reverse, then timing it right, then going forward. It kind of like that speed juking, rudder juking kind of thing, right? Well, speed juking, excuse me. This is more of a rudder juker for me. The speed is okay, like you're seeing I'm starting to do here, and that's just because I think this is the enemy Bayern here is sailing away. His guns really aren't trained on me, so I know that I can get away with this, and I want to keep him within my main battery firing range. But it's something that I like to utilize when I know no one's really shooting at me and I want to keep those ships in my main battery firing range. If the ship is targeting you and is aiming down his sights at you, that's where you use the rudder juking to really throw them off a little bit. It's a big tactic I learned in my Kaba, and definitely now bringing it down to lower tiers has really helped me elevate my low tier Russian DD gameplay and the fun factor, obviously, guys. you will rack up spotting for your team because A, you don't have a smoke screen now if you're playing with the heal. If you're playing with the smoke screen, obviously, yes, there's going to be time and a place to do that. And I'll go over that in a little bit. But with the heal especially, it just allows for a little bit more full throttle, high octane gameplay. And that's kind of what I like to do in my Russian DDs especially. So now with the smoke screen, everything I've told you thus far, it's not thrown out the window. There's definitely some similarities, but the big difference, or just, that you're going to see when you utilize the smoke screen, is you have that disengaging tool that you don't have with the heal. If you find yourself losing an engagement, if you find yourself getting rushed, if you want to set up and farm ships, you have that ability to do that at will and create your own cover, basically. That again is pretty self-explanatory with all smoke screens, especially with smoke firing destroyers. But for me, the Gnevny, it's just a larger target, at least for me with Jesus. I could be wrong here, but this is just my opinion. It just seems like it's a little bigger destroyer, a little bit more clumsy. And this just going up and down the Russian gunboat line. The smoke screen gameplay kind of sitting and farming just really doesn't work well with the Russian DDs. And in my opinion, I think they benefit more not only for their team but also for themselves by doing more open water gunboating, and that's kind of what I'm trying to do here. So I'm coming over to help the other flank. Obviously, the other flank is crumbling hard and fast while we were dominating the flank I started on. I came back and I'm helping with this flank. Obviously, I think this is what the New York whatever needs to help badly, and our allied aircraft carrier needs that help. I'm trying to make him survive. Again, we're just loading the AP on the broadside Nuremberg here. Again, you might as well, because that's going to be raw pen damage that it's going to be harder to heal back. Obviously, the Nuremberg doesn't have a heal, but when you get to higher tiers, there's something good to note that raw AP pen damage is going to be way more impactful and harder to heal back rather than the like the HE saturation damage that you're going to get from HE, I think, which I believe is 100% repairable. So it's just something to get in the habit of doing. And plus, you're going to rack up more damage quicker and be able to kill the targets faster, which is you're going to be able to do more damage theoretically to the target, especially given the fact if you're aiming right, which is right above the right about that upper hull area, right where the superstructure meets the hull. Right up that upper hull area is where I find to do the most amount of damage with your armor piercing. And it's, again, like I said, you're gonna just do more flat out raw damage to these ships. So, anywho, we keep sailing in here, or we keep doing what we're doing here, and kind of using that kiting ability to our advantage here, staying in that, kind of going back and forth, utilizing our speed and our to adjust and throw off enemy ships. Again, I wouldn't recommend this all the time, especially, like I said before, when they have you in their sights. You don't really want to do that. I'm just utilizing this because I want to be a pain in the ass. I want to be a sore thumb, something that the enemy team can't ignore. So one big rule, and I should have said this in my last video, and this is going to carry all the way up, not only with gunboat DDs again, but with my Russian gunboat DDs. If you are shooting and actively firing, yes, you're doing damage. But every salvo that's fired at you is one less salvo fired at your team. And I think that's one of the greatest strengths that these ships bring to the team. Do they have a lot of utility? Well, they definitely have more now than they used to, as they got a little bit buff to their torpedoes and whatnot. But if I get battleship salvos to shoot at me and not at my cruisers, which, avoiding theoretical dev strike, stuff like that, that is a win for the team. And I think that is where the team utility gets labeled on these ships, is because they distract the enemy team. And that is what you want to do. You want to distract them with being a constant sore thumb, never stop shooting your guns. That is kind of the gimmick with these ships, or the play style of these ships. Now, when I say that, I don't mean just go into the game right when the first target gets selected within your gun firing range, just start shooting. No, you still have to have a brain. Your brain has to be turned on and pick your spots. But like here, for an example, I think what is this, a Bayern? I'm not 100% sure. He's already burning. He's already ticking. He's getting struck by an aircraft carrier. I believe the Allied New York is also shooting at him. Why not, right? Why not jump my torpedoes, disengage, and then start opening up and shooting at him again. I want to see if I can bait him to shoot me and not my team. At least I have a heal. There are some cruisers that don't have a heal. So again, we take him down, but it's just, again, that kind of thought process, the kind of team element that a lot of people don't seem to have. I understand this isn't really a team game. I get that. I get that fundamentally. They aren't really rewarding that. I wish they would. I wish they would add a lot more rewards for the team element. But it is as it is, guys. You just have to make do. And I'm telling you right now, if you want to win more games and have overall better games because your team doesn't die like that, this is one thing to definitely consider when you're sailing your Russian DDs. Is you definitely want to be that cockroach, that sore thumb, um, you know, something that they can't ignore, basically a pest, a pest. That's the best word we can come up with is the pest. So, anyways, moving forward with the game. Obviously, we eliminated that push a little bit. We're starting to have their DDs. They're kind of flooding more towards the middle now. So we're going to take full advantage of this, and we're going to go sail into, I think, what is this, the A cap? We're going to go right to the A cap, and we are going to hopefully capture it. That's the first goal, and we're going to help alleviate some pressure from, I don't even know what ship this is, but it's the Devonshire. I'm not 100%. Help him as much as possible. I am hoping, though, that he eliminates one of those destroyers for me. I don't know if he ends up doing so or not. We're already clocking up at 61,000 damage, which is great. Really showing the potential of what this ship can do if played reasonably well. I will say this ship can be a bit of a struggle to play. It used to be way more of a struggle to play back in the day, but it's definitely a little bit more comfortable now to play, at least, as it has a little bit more tools working in its favor. Again, it's still a gunboat. I would still play these ships and in mind that you're having a gunboat. They are not a hybrid at all, like you have with the gearing, especially going with the Grozavoy. You're definitely more gun focused with this line. And again, down the road, I'll cover the Grozavoy. I'm not saying the Grozavoy is torpedo focused. I would still very much say the Grozavoy is more gun focused, but the Grozavoy definitely has a little bit more tools, again, at its disposal with the heal, the smoke, the defensive AA, all that kind of stuff. It really allows the Grozavoy to be way more flexible in more situations than the Delny line. But with that being said, we're not talking about that. We're talking still about the Gnevny here. Opening up on the enemy sub because he's going to, be spotted. So why not? Why not do more chip damage at him and whittle him down as much as possible? So again, we are capturing A, and this is where the first thought process, the first thought that crosses my mind. In a carrier game, you're really not going to be able to cap effectively, especially with enemy ships still in play, just because that carrier is going to be an absolute pest to you. And there may be only one pest in the game, and that should be you. So I'm going to make that conscious decision and be like, you know what? I'm going to leave the cap, and I'm going to go after it. I got to pursue this carrier as he is detected. He's right there. I need to get him out of this game. Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. Now, obviously, you're going to see your AA is freaking utter useless, basically. You are a destroyer first off, and you are tier 6 DD at that, so don't rely on that too much. I mean, again, you will shoot down the occasional, but don't rely on it. But the big highlight here is the armor piercing. I mean, the armor piercing, again, the Ranger, not known for its armor whatsoever, aiming right at the rear smokestacks of that vessel. And you're going to be able to score some Citadel ribbons here. Again, I don't know where my shells are going, doing the whole falling short method here thing, but yeah, absolutely. Armor piercing on specific targets, you can punish heavily on these enemy ships. So I do recommend not just sticking solely with HE, but playing around a little bit with the armor piercing and the high explosives. Eventually, I will be switching back to my high explosives, just because the Ranger does become a little bit, too angled to me, and I don't want to auto ricochet. I got to get this guy killed as fast as possible while retaining as much HP as possible, because I don't know, there's still 2 enemy destroyers in play, and obviously I'm going to have to utilize that to my advantage as well, being a gunboat DD. So, but yeah, the Gnevny, as you're witnessing here in the background, with its guns, very, very potent gunboat. It can dish out the pain. And with those 7-kilometer torpedoes, man, I'm telling you what, it is super nice now having that at my disposal, that I don't have to be at point blank range. Because before, with the 4-kilometer torpedoes, I felt that it kind of was contradicting the playstyle of the ship. Like, I understand Wargaming was trying to emphasize, hey, you are not a torpedo-focused destroyer. You are a gunboat DD. Just use it as your guns. You have torps for, like, the YOLO, like, kind of plays, but, like, you're mainly going to be focused on your guns. But now you have that, well, I can drop those torpedoes, and they're not relatively far in, relatively, medium range, like the Farragut, like a little shorter range, but medium range. And I can start sailing away while those torpedoes are traveling in towards the target sailing at me. And that's really where I think this ship, why its torpedoes are buffed to where it is. It's not for the stealth torpedoing role, even though it can do that by 900 meters. I really believe it's more so just being able to throw then dump those torpedoes in the direction of the ships coming towards you, hopefully landing 1 or 2 torpedoes. Because before, man, the 4 kilometer torpedoes, like you basically never used those at all because they were contradicting your medium range gun, fighting gunboat DDing style of gameplay. And I'm glad it was a great change by them to finally make the Gnevny a little bit more usable and or playable. So but yeah, we're winding down here. Obviously, like I told you previously in the beginning of the video, the enemy Gnevny had one hell of a game, and he is still alive. No surprise, he's doing it well. He obviously knows how to play the ship. So again, my hat off to that player. Very well done this game. But we'll see what only one Gnevny can be left standing. We'll see which one is the better Gnevny player, even though again he's getting targeted by how many other ships shooting HE, aircraft carrier, and then eventually me when I get in range. So up to 108,000 damage. I believe we have 10 citadels, which was awesome. Donated to us by the Ranger. Always nice to get those CV kills, guys, especially in a destroyer. It's kind of like a little redemption, a little payback, kind of thing. Especially because he absolutely dumpstered me for like what 3 or 4K with his HE bombs, maybe even more. I'm not 100% sure, but yeah, the Gnevny, as we're getting towards the end of the battle, I'll kind of start wrapping her up here with some like final thoughts on her. She's comfortable. She's comfortable to play. Coming up from where you were with the Podvorski, I did find her to be actually a little bit of a downgrade, and I can't believe I'm saying that. But again, you have to factor in you're at tier 5, so I could run into tier 4 ships and tier 6, right? Potentially tier 7s too, but I'm not going to get into that. But the Gnevny can also see tier 8s. And why am I saying that? Well, the Gnevny is more likely or not to get into tier 7 games, and that's when we have the iteration of paid radar, your Belfast, your Indianapolis, your Atlanta. And then you also have at tier 8, you have your main radar lines coming in, Italian, the Chapayev, the Cleveland, Baltimore, those sort of ships. So again, radar's just going to be a little bit more prominent. So you're fighting that against, at that element too. So again, matchmaker dependent heavily. If you could choose your consumables before you load it in the game, if I find myself in a tier 7 game, absolutely I'm going to take the smoke screen more often than not. Just because there's so much more shit, and I'm going to find myself not being as useful in those games when I have a heal. I hate to say it. I mean, yes, you have the radar going to come against you, and it easily can counterdict and counter your smoke screen. But again, you still have to position your ship well and know where the enemy radar is before you smoke up, So, but that's just me. I just think heal is going to be better for those tier 6 and 7 games, whereas the smoke is definitely for the tier 8 games. I would prefer to have a smoke screen personally. It just allows you to have that active concealment and to smoke up farm, disengage, that sort of stuff. So but my last thought, maybe my last tip about the Gnevny that I would recommend too is don't go rushing in there right away. I see a lot of Russian DD players, especially low tier, they just go in right away. Usually you have higher concealment. Obviously 6.1 is super nice, and it's not that high compared to other DDs at this tier. But it's good to practice, good mechanics, stuff that you're gonna have to get ready for. And that is, not rushing in and dying or getting down to half HP. You have to make smart trades because now later on in the game, because I was smart and salvaged my HP and kept it as much as possible, it allowed me to pick certain fights now at this tier or at this stage of the game where I can feel comfortable open water gunboating a little bit more and taking that potential damage in return. So, but yeah, as you see here, victory, what a game. But yeah, guys, the Gnevny is a great ship. I know you're going to have a blast in her too. Hopefully this tutorial helps you guys, and I will go ahead and see you all in the next video. So thanks for watching, and peace out, guys.